Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Lonely Liberal Podcast. I am your host, Nick Zankin, and I'm so happy to have you on this lovely Wednesday. We got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about 5 kind of ridiculous pardons that the Trump administration, I guess specifically Trump, has given this year alone. Now, many of you may not know this, but this year, Donald Trump has issued over 1,600 pardons. Now, many of them were the blanket January 6 pardons that he gave, but still, that is one heck of a lot of pardons. And let me tell you, they are a interesting bunch. And I figured it could be interesting to go through kind of 5 of the most, what I think, outrageous pardons that have been given this year and really try to get a better understanding of why these numbers are so high and why it differs from typical presidents. So, like I said, we got a lot to talk about. So without further ado, let's get to it. All right, so I think the first thing worth talking about is understanding what a presidential pardon is supposed to be. Because, yeah, I mean, if we want to talk about if we think they're stupid or not, the ones that have been given, we need to know what they're typically for. So the usual kind of precipice of the pardon was to try to, give mercy on people they think were wrongly convicted, for people who have gone under certain levels of rehabilitation, or if, just general miscarriages of justice, they say, right? So some historical examples of this would be people who maybe resisted being in the Vietnam draft, people who are non-violent drug offenders, or if there are certain examples of like disproportionate sentencing, so like, a non-violent crime getting a crazy ruling or something like that, or, DNA evidence showing that this person is actually innocent or something like that. This is what it was supposed to be for. So again, kind of this mercy thing. So like something went wrong, you got a too harsh of a sentence, you've now been pardoned, right? But what we're seeing now isn't that, right? We're seeing kind of almost like political favors with these pardons, right? It's about loyalty, about money, about power, more like this type of stuff, which I guess, to people who are anti-Trump, not surprised. But I think even people who are pro-Trump or MAGA people will be shocked about some of these people who are getting pardoned because what they've been convicted of is so against the typical kind of Trump messaging, right? Because we're seeing cartel leaders, we're seeing, people taking huge bribes, people who've convicted, of major fraud, getting pardons. So let's go through the list of people who have gotten them and my top 5 kind of most outrageous pardons. So the first one will be specifically outrageous to a lot of MAGA listeners. Representative Henry Cuellar, a Democratic rep of Texas. He is a sitting U.S. congressman. So this is a Democrat who is a sitting U.S. congressman of Texas. So he was indicted for $600,000 in foreign-linked bribes from different banks, so a bank from Azerbaijan, a Mexican bank, and the allegations include selling political influence, money laundering, and basically acting as an agent for foreign interests. Now, what's so crazy about this is that the trial hasn't even happened yet. So this is a preemptive shield before a trial. And it's gotten a lot of publicity because Henry, Representative Cuellar or whatever, he is not switching parties and is running again. So Trump said he had no loyalty, he was mad and stuff like that. But clearly that's what he thought was going to happen. He thought that Henry Cuellar would switch parties and that was why he pardoned him. But already off the jump, we're seeing that it wasn't because he thought he was actually innocent of what he was indicted for, which is, again, alleged foreign-linked bribes from either Azerbaijan or Mexico or whatever. So pretty outrageous and definitely shocked me. Another one that I wanted to talk about today would be the Binance founder himself, Changpeng Zhao, or CZ as he's known in the crypto community. So he's the founder of Binance, which is the world's largest crypto exchange, and he's pled guilty to this. So this isn't alleged. This is something he pled guilty to, which is failing basic anti-money laundering controls. So basically, Binance didn't have any systems in place to stop child exploitation, drug trafficking, sanction evasions, and stuff like that. So, there's a responsibility for these people to set up different controls that allow for the stuff to be regulated. He didn't do that. He pled guilty. And we know that he is guilty of this because he pled guilty. And so not only is the stuff he did bad, he was not even someone Trump known, right? I don't know if you guys heard the 60-minute interview when the host asked Trump, why is this person who violated federal law getting pardoned? Like, what do you know? What information led to the pardon? Donald Trump said, I don't even know who that is. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even know who he is. So it's an example where clearly someone in his inner circle, probably his son or someone in the crypto world, said, do us a favor and pardon this guy. And what do you know? CZ is pardoned, and that smells bad. Okay, the third outrageous pardon so far this year. We're going to go with Juan Orlando Hernandez. This is the former Honduran president, and he was actually prosecuted in the U.S., even though he was the former Honduran president. And what the prosecutors basically proved was that he ran what they call, the U.S. calls, a narco-state. And what that means is it was a thing that moved 400 tons of cocaine into the United States. It was shown that he took bribes from cartels, and he actually used the military and police to protect drug traffickers. This is so rare, right? The U.S. courts almost never convict foreign heads of state. It's not something that is traditionally done. This was a really historic moment of accountability, especially for an issue that obviously a lot of people care about, which is drugs illegally coming into the United States. I mean, if you listen to Trump, you would think this is a major issue for him. And so for him getting pardoned, not only does that obviously undermine international anti-drug enforcement, it shows you that geopolitical loyalty is way more important than these issues that he claims to care so much, right? This isn't mercy, right? This is just absolving someone of their crimes because you like them, right? And again, so much of the rhetoric we hear about undocumented immigrants and drugs and stuff like that, clearly, does he really care? And speaking of drugs, right, and potential illegal things coming into the U.S., we're talking about pardon number 4, which is Ross Ulbricht. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Now, this guy is the guy who founded the Silk Road. And if for those who don't know what the Silk Road is, I'm not talking about the historic Silk Road. I'm talking about what this place was a dark web marketplace. And maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. The dark web is basically a less regulated side of the internet. And the Silk Road is basically like an eBay for that site. So, but instead of, buying a used washer machine or whatever, people are buying drugs, weapons, fraud, stuff like that. And, you could argue the, freedom of selling things or whatnot and all the kind of ethical kind of questions around regulating the internet and things of that nature, which is a lot of what, pro-dark web people argue. Fair enough. I'm not saying that. That being said, there's no doubt about it that on the Silk Road, there was a massive drug trade. Again, illegal weapons, fraud, identity, stuff like that. So he was convicted, Ross that is, in 2015. He was sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years, right? Now, people do argue that this sentence was excessive, right? Which means, that's a lot. And, I could see why. I mean, that's a lot of jail time for someone, who made a website. Now, it is true that he wasn't just this passive coder. He ran the operation. And it's not like Trump commuted his sentence. He fully erased it, right? And again, I think it shows you that this wasn't some guy who he thought was unfairly sentenced and that's why he should be absolved of his crimes. It was something where there's clearly something going on in the background, because what someone would do if you thought that was unfair would, tell Congress, hey, look, like we're looking to reform this law. We think this is too unjust. This is too strong of a law. But instead, he clearly did some sort of loyalty-based pardoning and is fine. Again, don't know these people personally, just trying to point out contradictions. And this one is great. number 4 or number 5. Number 5. Yeah, number 5, which is Rod Blagojevich. I actually don't feel bad missing these guys' names. They're criminals, right? So this guy was really, really a famous one because he's been pardoned twice. He was pardoned under Trump during the first term, and now he's pardoned again because he got rearrested. What this guy did, he had 18 federal corruption counts. He tried selling his Senate seat. So this is a former senator, by the way. I didn't say that. He lied to the FBI. He got charged for extortion, but he literally tried to sell people his Senate seat. And again, Trump already commuted his sentence once. He now erased the conviction entirely. Obviously, there's been no new evidence to suggest that he's innocent. And it's clearly just a reward for his loyalty and the media attention that it gets. So, I mean, this isn't even a pretend justice thing. This is just clear as day, right? I mean, this guy's been convicted so much, and it's so crazy. And I'm not even counting, right, the 1,500 pardons of the January 6th defendants. I'm not talking about other white-collar criminals. I mean, frankly, we could do a dishonorable mention, right? Let's think about some, like, dishonorable mentions. Well, you have George Santos, right, who famously lied about everything about him and was kicked out of Congress for that. He had a 7-year sentence. He got out in 3 months. What a treat. We have Jason Galantis, who was guilty of 60 millions of tribal bond fraud. He stole from the Sioux tribe. He got his sentence commuted. Great. We had Ahmaud Zuberi. He had campaign finance crimes, tax evasion, obstruction of justice. He had a 12-year sentence completely erased. We have Trevor Milton, the founder of Nikola. He basically made a bunch of fake electric truck claims. Investors lost $600 million. Trump erased the entire thing. We have the BitMEX co-founders. They had Bank Security Act violations, $100 million of penalties, all pardoned. The founders, the executives, and the company itself, unbelievably. And there are so many others that I could go through. And what does this mean for the rule of law? Which is, by the way, a common platitude from the right. They're the rule of law candidacies. It shows them that not only does the president not have faith in our prosecutors, our justice system, and whatnot, what it really shows you is that laws are conditional and accountability is negotiable, right? Because if you have an ear, if you have a way into the White House, we hear from lobbyists now. There are people selling to plead your case to Trump for the pardon because he's almost using this as a little bit of a kind of way to make money. And I don't know if I'd say that he's making money, obviously. I'm saying like a way for the people who will pay to these inner circle people to are making money so they can get in front of him and he can just sign it. And we know that's true largely because he admitted on 60 Minutes, right? He didn't know who CZ was. How can you pardon someone you don't even know who they are unless someone got in your ear? How did they get in your ear? They used lobbyists, whatnot, to get there. So it's weird, and it's not like he's broken our justice system, but he's definitely putting a price on it in a way. I think it's something that, is unprecedented. It's something that obviously if the shoe was on the other foot and this was a Democratic president doing this stuff, Fox News would be outraged. People would be freaking out. And frankly, it shouldn't even be a partisan thing, right? I mean, we're trying to live in a society here as made famous by George Costanza. We live in a society, and this kind of stuff really shows and undermines the kind of, honestly, the rule of law that, this country is supposedly built on. And that's our show, folks. Thank you so much for listening today. If you like the show, please give it a 5-star review on wherever you listen to it. That would make me very happy, and it would be very helpful to the show. Also, what would be really helpful is telling people about the show. That is our biggest marketing department, is your lovely word of mouth, which is a hilarious expression, by the way, word of mouth. Yeah, that's where the words come from. I am silly. Anyway, we'll be back on Sunday with Rick to talk about the news like we always do. I hope you enjoy this one. I'm really curious what you think. If you have any thoughts, either you can comment it on YouTube or you can write us in at thelonelyliberalpodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, that's it. We'll talk to you Sunday. And until then, take it easy. See you guys. Bye.